Hey everybody, welcome to the Do Nothing Project for Sunday, July 5th. Got a new microphone again. Hoping this one works. Can you guys hear me okay? As usual, it hasn't been tested, but I mean, I tested it on another platform, but I'm assuming it works. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. I can just see the logins coming in. See the blue, so that must be either Lily or Andrew. What's up, Lily? What's up, Andrew? Yeah, welcome everybody, all the regulars. I can see some of the names. Caitlin and Melissa and Diane, Michael, Angie. Super good to be here. I'm in a great mood. I'm excited to guide this practice. So if you haven't been here before, this is the Do Nothing Project. So, really, let's be honest. Very little of anything happens. We don't get up to much. We're not really doing anything at all, and that's kind of the point. We just sit. Most of us call it meditation. I consider it kind of the heart of meditation. The heart of meditation, this capacity to just sit and be okay with that. Others might call it staring vacantly into space, maybe drooling, but we're doing it in community. So we got friends here from all around the world. I see a whole bunch of folks from Australia. Got to get there, dying to get there. Johnny from Norway. Of course, we got lots of people from Canada and the US. So basically the format is 25-minute meditation. So sometimes I say a little something at the beginning if I feel like I'm inspired about a particular subject. Other times just kind of go right into it. Some variation of a very simple practice. You don't need to follow along if you don't like. If you got your own thing you like to do, then that's fine. You can just sort of use this as an opportunity to do nothing in community. And then at the end, we usually finish with some little kind of variation on a loving kindness or a friendliness, gratitude type practice, last few minutes. And then again, depending on what my energy levels are like, I might answer a few questions or something. I actually feel pretty good tonight. Last week I was wiped out, or 2 weeks ago, whenever the last time I did it was. So that's the Do Nothing Project, and I'm very happy to be seeing all the names and seeing this. I look forward to this. I feel like it gets me practicing. I'm a very lazy practitioner. I'll meditate at night often, but often not. I'll forget. I'll kind of do little mini ones during the day, but doing a nice sitting formal practice is something that I find I'm more likely to do if I make some kind of social engagement about it. It's just like if I wanted to exercise, I got to like book myself in some kind of class. Otherwise, forget it. I mean, I'm good with running, but so for tonight, I think I'm going to call this meditation, this session, State of Wonder, because once again, my main teacher, who right now his name's Eden Lewis, he's a 10-month-old baby. He was showing me some things today. He showed me the same thing he shows me a lot of the time, which isn't just some disgusting thing he found under the couch. What he usually shows me is that when I just relax, I can see who he is much more than when I just come up to him all like with my own agenda about being psyched to see him and kind of pave over everything with like a whole bunch of throwing him up in the air, and which I still like to do and he loves. But if I approach him in this state of more kind of gentle, patient curiosity, like I'm coming up, like I don't really know who he is and what's going to happen, inevitably. So I'm in this sort of state of wondering. Inevitably, he does some weird thing I haven't seen before. Like the other day, he was doing these weird Mussolini things. Like he put his neck back and had this smile, and it was sort of like he was like a 60-year-old man being roasted at an anniversary dinner. This kind of look. Or he'll say some weird word, or he'll do something, and so once again, it's sort of a lesson. This very basic lesson of just, can you actually lean back a bit instead of plunging forward with your own agenda? Can I just chill here for a bit and just sit and be with the little guy. And when I can do that in that state of more open-ended wonder, inevitably some gift, some true wonder emerges. So we can apply that to meditation. In meditation, we kind of often come at it with this sense of an agenda or something we want to get out of it, or we're trying to get to something. We're kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. This is a theme we talk about a bunch here. But if we can kind of notice that tendency to kind of jump ahead and actually just sort of back up into actually really the present, the unfolding kind of cutting edge of now, and pretend we don't know what's going to happen. Pretend like you just landed here on the planet and you haven't got a clue, like you're just born in reality. And all you know is that you're curious, but you're infinitely patient. What will this next thing be? What will this next breath be? What will this next sound be? And I just sort of invite you to do the experiment. It might sound weird, but what happens when you have this attitude when you sit? What are you shown? That's the state of wonder. So let's do it. And by doing it, I mean not doing anything, basically sitting and doing nothing. It's 8:07, so 25 minutes. So we'll finish at whatever that is, 8:33, I think. And I'm happy to see everybody. I think Sarah's going to be meditating in the other room. And hopefully this sounds better than the last crappy mics I've had. We'll have to tell after we listen to the recording. Okay, so as always, you're your own teachers here in terms of the pacing, the knowing when to lean in, when to shift channels. If you want to follow along, I'd like to start with a few clearing breaths, I guess, sort of getting the body ready breath. Stretching up on the inhale. Finding that poise, that alertness. On the exhale, that's the downward motion, the relaxation. When I say that, I just mean there's a settling on the exhale, so the diaphragm just naturally is relaxing because it's not working. And we can kind of ride that down, the shoulders, soften the shoulders. On the exhale, and you take this opportunity to sort of check in with, is there any body part that we're tensing a bit that we may not have realized we're doing that? So you just do a little scan on softening the forehead on the next exhale and the cheeks and the jaw. Softening the shoulders. Softening the belly. Spend more time talking about the exhale because most people need to relax. They don't need to get more awake, although that might be, if you're really sleepy before you even get started here, then you might want to kind of emphasize the inhales a bit when you're kind of oxygenating and stretching up. That can bring a little bit of energy into the system. So most important part of meditation is really this, at least in my experience, is this attitude piece, which is really equanimity. It's having an attitude of being okay with the imperfections of the moment. So welcoming everything, welcoming all the random sounds that might be in your environment that maybe in an ideal world you I'd rather they weren't there, but they're here. It's like, okay, well, this is just part of reality. Same with your state. You're maybe you got a busy brain, or you got some strong emotions with you right now. Instead of trying to quash those things, just go, yeah, okay, this is what's here. Like, this attitude is about basically being a realist because it's what's real, it's what's here. You're not going to get uptight, meaning rigid, bracing, like fighty McFighty about something in your experience. Just let it be there. To like permission to be with whatever's going on. And some people like to sit right here. They just sit in this sort of open-ended way, enjoying their own company a bit, not much of an agenda. And that's a good practice. And that might be you for part of this, or you may want to work with a home base, which can be helpful, especially at the beginning, to kind of give you a bit of structure, give you something, your mind, something to do. So that means maybe it means focusing for you on the feeling of the breath in your belly or in your nostril. Or maybe it means just feeling the whole body or some part of the body, like the hands or maybe your feet on the ground. Or maybe it means sort of lightly listening to sounds, like sounds of a air conditioner if you're in North America, or traffic. Lots of options. Just choose something, and then let's get settled in here for a bit. Good. So the theme we're exploring today, the permutation of nothing, is this idea of being in a state of, I guess, not knowing, deliberately kind of doing this thought experiment, like you were just being born this moment and you had no expectation about what the next breath would feel like or the next sound would be or the next moment would hold. What would that be like? It's sort of like we're backing up into this emerging present. And we're practicing being super, super patient. And we're letting the world show itself to us. We're letting ourselves show ourselves to us. surprised by or no expectation of what you might feel, what thought might emerge, what sound might pop in from your environment. And just play with this a bit. What do you need to do in your nervous system to kind of hold that attitude, I guess, or if it feels like something you want to explore. Otherwise, of course, you can just sit with whatever go-to framework or state you want to explore. One hint, it really helps to get very still. I don't even know why. It just does. Sometimes as we start to settle into our meditation, we can kind of very gently start to drift off, and we kind of get distracted by a thought and start to follow the thought, and then we're kind of way off over here. So if you notice that happen, you just go, "Oh yeah, okay, that just happened." And you come back to right here, and you can watch thoughts too with the same attitude. So it's this delicate thing of, instead of being in the thoughts, you're sort of watching the visual space or the auditory space where components of thoughts do their thing. And you're just sort of curious what will emerge. What? That can actually sometimes be a way to quiet down if you got a lot of inner talk. Doesn't If you have a lot of inner talk, just sitting and listening to your own inner talk, and sometimes it gets shy and it goes away. And then you can just be surprised by what random thinking comes up. Same with the images, but if you're doing that, just be aware it can be, especially the images, you can get kind of sucked in, really trying to stay backed up in this aware space at the very edge of right now, very still, totally humble in a way, like you don't know what's going to happen. Practicing this state of wonder. And just notice, though, if you're even having just said that, did you tense at all? Like there can be a kind of tensing or bracing of a waiting for something to happen. And the move is just to, that smoothness muscle, the equanimity, just to kind of let go of that. It's like you're available for it to come to you, whatever it is. And with every out breath, you can sort of imagine you're letting go a little more tension. You're kind of resting back in your awareness a little more. All these very subtle ways in which we might be anticipating or trying to get ahead of ourselves. Can we back up and back up? So primed to do. This is about sort of the art of being. You notice the thinking, just kind of a good-natured smile. So you can back out of it and back down into the body, into awareness, and see what you notice from there. Good. So for the last few minutes, you can just coast if you like, kind of on the momentum there. Or if you want to do a little friendliness practice, we can just connect it to what we've been doing, which is just being open and being, whatever weird thing pops in our experience, kind of letting ourselves, trying to not anticipate it, but to kind of freshly experience it. So we can just turn that into a little thank you practice. Like, the next sound you hear, you're like, oh yeah, thanks. And the next sensation you feel, the next thought you have, the next feeling, the next breath. And every time you notice something, you just say thank you. You don't even have to know why you're saying thank you. It's just like we're practicing gratitude just because. Just notice what effect it has on your experience doing this little weird gratitude practice. Maybe you're thanking the content, or maybe you're thanking just the form of the thing, the vibratory nature of sound, or the sound of the kid laughing, or the sound of the traffic. It doesn't matter. Thank you. Thank you to this sensation in my body, whatever it is. Thank you for this feeling. Thank you for this community, this breath, this moment, etc. This body. And it might happen that, people pop into your head, animals, people, situations. And we can thank those too, acknowledging the connection. All right. Thank you. Nice to do nothing with you guys. Diana says, I feel refreshed. Refreshing. It's like, look, 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 look. Nothing. That's refreshing. Oh, thanks for all the nice comments. A lot of people enjoyed it. Welcome to ask a question if you guys want about whatever. I was thinking, just at the end there, I was thinking, what is this path? What is this do nothing path that we do together? I guess if I had to describe it, I would say it's sort of about being open-ended, open-facing to the mystery, like in what we just did in the practice. And I mean that not just in the moment as the technique, but I mean maybe more deeply as if I were to describe what this path was that I'm here for and that we're all seem to be here for. When I was earlier on, when I was starting out as a meditator, and I was super hair on fire about it in like the late 2000s, early, like between 2007 and about 2000. I was really intensely practicing between 2007 and 2015, maybe. Those were my kind of like gunning it for it years. And I really like thought I was trying to I was trying to address my own suffering actually, but I definitely thought the only way I could address my suffering was to get enlightened. Like I figured I didn't believe in enlightenment at first, and then I started reading and talking to all these people and having teachers that talked about it. Oh, maybe this is real. So I want to get there because hey, this is the only way I'm going to address my suffering. I'm too crazy and too miserable, and neurotic. And I need the heavy guns. And I don't know if that resonates to any of you, but and so I looked for very specific paths that would take me there, and teachers that would talk about it, and they had particular techniques they were teaching. They had maps, and I was really into the progressive insight as a map. It was super influential for me. This map of stages and things that were going to happen, and I remember I had this conversation back then with this teacher. I had all these different teachers that I would explore with, my main teacher Shinzen, but I was very promiscuous. I would go and hang out with one teacher for like 4 months and have tons of talks with them and just try to understand, like get a download on what they were about. So many. I have folders on my computer. They're like just like 20 folders of just 20 different teachers that at one time or another I was really working with. But this is one guy, this guy Hokai Sobel, who I still connect to sometime. I really like him. I think I mentioned him on my contact page if you want a really good teacher. He's in Croatia. Anyway, he said, this was many years ago, he said, yeah, there's all these maps and stages, of like getting stream entry and then first path and second path and stream entry, then second path and third path and fourth path and all these ways to think about it. And he's like, my experience, it's more like you have a giant opening. Maybe that's kind of stream entry moment, or maybe it's not, and then it's mystery. At the time I was like, oh, whatever. I'm looking at this map. Now, 10 years later, I think that's been more true for me. That's probably the truest description of my experience, that you have these experiences, these openings where you start to feel that there's something going on. There's something about this life. There's something about this experience. There's a quality or a direction inside it that is kind of mysterious, and it's drawing you along. And there's a kind of my way I think about stream entry, of entering the stream, which is very different than probably how legit Buddhists would think about it. Although I don't think anyone has a standard way of thinking about it. I think of it as like when the momentum of that has got you, when you no longer feel like, in a way, you feel like if you just sat and did nothing, you would still be carried somewhere interesting or somewhere. And that for me, that feeling is very much there. And so now it's just about sitting and trying not to have an agenda about where it is I'm going. And that can sound very passive, and I don't mean it in a passive way. I mean, for me, it contrasts an earlier mode of operating, which I was just like, in my head, I knew exactly what I wanted. I was gunning for it and basically riding over top of all the things that were around me. It was like the world was going, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. And I was like, whatever. And I was going for things, but I was just paving it over with my own intensity and craziness. And now it's much more like, okay, back up. All right, what wants to happen now? And then some new thing emerges, and then it's like, okay, I'll choose that. And you go along with that. So there's still choice, but there's this patience. And then this thing is being shown. Oh yeah, okay, I'll go that way. And it's sort of like, in this sense, we're all our own teachers, and every nervous system is its own path, its own mystery unfolding in front of us. And sometimes you roll in with one teacher for a bit and it kind of aligns, and then maybe you move over here, or a friend or a community or a group, or maybe it's all on your own. But the sense of trusting what your own life is showing you. At the time, you may not even know what it is or how to even talk about it. But then after doing this for a bunch of years, you look back and realize, you've been on a path. I've been on a path. I don't know what I would call it, but I can see that this is going in a particular direction. Something is opening. Something in life is opening. Yeah. Maybe that's the do nothing path. So I can see there's some words here. Yeah, Brooke's talking about how saying to the self, I don't know, is so freeing sometimes. It is so freeing. Don't know and don't need to know. Try that as a prompt. Don't know. Don't need to know. Whoa, is that true? Do I need to know? Because it's gotta know, gotta get the agenda locked down. Can't know, actually. Really, that's like backing up from that. That's a big one. Yeah, I really just put in Hokai's website. Yeah, the whole question of being Yeah, Tina's saying promiscuous. Are we really married to our teachers? No, you're definitely not. No, I just mean as a way of saying exploring. You can be like poly mono. It's like poly spiritual versus mono spiritual. Like open. Some people find exploring lots of different teachers and paths and techniques confusing. Actually, they just want, in a sense, they want the beauty of one tradition, one path, one way of doing something. And that can be really, some nervous systems really jive with it. And that's beautiful. I mean, to find a lineage that you really jam with, like, oh yeah, that is just a gift. Although I guess what I would say there is just, completely commit yourself. But at a certain point, it can very often happen that, though, there was a certain point with me with Shinzen where after a few years, probably 10 years into my relationship with him, maybe 8 years in, I realized that my path was different in a way, and that his system and what he taught was wonderful, and it so enriched me. And I got such a transmission from him, just personally from talking to him, that I was kind of going in a different direction. And it was like, I needed to kind of go and explore that. And every teacher knows that. So yeah, I think that's really what it means to be your own teacher. Sometimes being your own teacher means you want to be with the teacher for a while, because you get a really good, you feel this kindred spiritness, or a guide, or whatever you want to call it. I wish it was a better word for teacher, because it sounds so presumptuous. It's more like somebody who's explored some path or technique, and they're just like, yeah, I think this is cool. Come, let me show you what it's about, and let's explore it together. And um, that's what I mean. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Caitlin's saying, I find the simpler we make things, i.e., meditation, yoga, the more benefit, taking away all the bells and whistles of striving. I agree with that. I think that's really deep. I mean, there are lots of very complex, rich, deep practices. I mean, you can get into these Tibetan traditions with these really complex practices, and they're complex for a reason. So I think there is a place for that. But I think even with those practitioners, there's a sense in which what you know to be true gets simpler and simpler. Um, wow, that light is super bright. Oh, is that too dark? I realized it was in a mirror there. No, I don't have that mirror. Um, yeah, so what are you guys saying here? Rage Against the Machine said it best, Michael Perry. No better place than here, what better time than now? Nice, Guerrilla Radio. I love Rage Against the Machine. I think I quoted them some meditation I did. They were my mosh pit back when I was 1993. I think that album came out. First Rage Against the Machine album. Anyway, nice, Michael. Tina, I think you have to have some experience to understand how you are different from the teacher. I haven't ever thought of the teacher as responsible for my understanding of my own experience, though. Totally. That's a really good point. So I think, yeah, it takes time to know. That's the value, I think, of having sometimes going along with a teacher. It's like they introduce you to this thing, this path, this technique, some of the mysteries in it. And at first, it's like this alien language or even a concept or an idea. And slowly you start to get a sense of what they're talking about. And then even more slowly, you get a sense of how you're experiencing that is different than what they're talking about. And that's just, there's a process there, most teachers would be really humble about knowing what's going on and trying to pretend they don't know what's going on in someone else's experience. But that said, it's amazing that there are often overlaps. You can say, hey, you might be tensing a bit like this, and you don't realize you're doing it, and that's in your experience, and suddenly you notice it and you let go, and you give someone a cue like that, and a whole bunch of people find that to be a valid cue. So I think if you're general enough in your instruction, you can speak to a larger number of people, but everyone is also always a mystery. Anyway, so Brenda's saying, I've had a visual in my head for many years. We're all climbing the mountain together. Sometimes I'm higher up and can help you. Sometimes you can help me. Reaching between ledges. Sweet. Love that, Brenda. Yeah. I would even wonder, I even wonder sometimes if it's like we're all on different mountains, but we can reach down and pull someone up anyway. So we can still like bring someone up, but it's hard to know where you are in relationship to somebody else. You can only really know where you are in relationship to where you used to be. If someone could seem like they're a complete beginner and don't know what they're doing, but they're this deeply wise person. So anyway, it's hard to try to find the right metaphor. The mountains of the classic one, but I'm always a little bit suspicious of thinking about it as like a linear progression with different people along that progression. I think the only real progression we're on is the progression in our own life, and so that's, and yet at the same time we're all here to help each other out. So Tina's saying the good ones are humble. I find if a teacher is telling me there's a right way of doing things, I tend to think they don't know what they're doing. I totally agree with that. Lauren's agreeing with that too. Timothy, true nobility isn't about being better than anyone else, but being better than who you were yesterday. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's the, I think there was what was the line? Joan Rivers line, comic Joan Rivers. Actually said something like, I hate to tell you, but life doesn't get better. You get better. That's a good line. All right. It's a good conversation. It's nice to have a conversation with the chat, where it's not, hey, I have a question. It's just like we're talking about something, people are sharing thoughts, and that's what this is about. This is what the Do Nothing project is about, in my opinion. So thank you guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Adios, amigos. Thank you, Lily, for your excellent thing you're doing over there. Corralling, commenting. Much love to you guys. We'll see you next week.